Hello everyone. This video will review the requirements for the action plan assignment for the course Career and Employment Resources. The instruction package you see on the screen is available for download from Blackboard under Course Assignments and Due Dates. This assignment is due midnight Sunday at the end of week 6 and is worth 15% of your grade. In this assignment, you're going to select and explore 4 online resources that will help you to stay up to date on trends in the Canadian labor market as a CDP, and then you're going to create an action plan for accessing these resources regularly. You're going to explore 2 resources from a list that I'll provide you, and I'll show you that in a moment. And then you will also identify and explore 2 additional resources that you find on your own. You will be finding specific features on each of these resources that will be useful in helping you to stay up to date on trends or that provide other new, recently updated information in the field. Then you will create an action plan outlining how you're going to use these resources to stay up to date. The resources that you explore and include in your assignment should provide, for example, the latest trends in the labor market, new technologies that are being used in the career development field, or trends in job opportunities that may be developing or changing in specific geographical areas, perhaps due to offices or facilities opening and closing, and so on. These are just a few examples of the topics that the resources you're going to look at would be focused on. You may find other resources that touch on other topics, but generally they must be topics that are of direct application in your work as a career development practitioner, in specifically keeping you up to date on trends and other information that would help you to be better informed as you guide clients in job search or career decision making. So one thing to really note in doing this assignment is that the focus and the emphasis is on resources that you will access that will keep you up to date, not on resources that you're providing to your client or how you will help your clients to access resources to stay up to date. So this assignment is all about you, and it's all about your action plan for keeping yourself up to date, which is an ethical requirement in our field. Let me break this down just a little bit more in terms of the detailed instructions. And the first thing that you're going to do in this assignment is to look at these 4 resources that I have provided to you here. These are all good resources that I have pre-selected that would be very useful for you to access on a regular basis to stay up to date. So you can look at this list and you're going to select 2 of these resources to explore fully. You can pick any 2. You might already be familiar with 1 or 2 of them and decide to look at some of the others, or perhaps you really like 2 of the resources that are on this list and you're already accessing them pretty regularly. So it's up to you. You pick any 2 from this list that you would like to explore more fully. Once you have selected the 2 resources from this list, you're going to go and look at them in a bit more detail and really review all the features, everything that is available on the 2 websites that you've picked from the list. Then for each one, as you're doing your write-up for your assignment, you will first tell me what the resource is, so just give me the specific web address. Then you're going to identify a specific feature about each one of these sites that would be, not all of them, just 2, that would be useful in helping you to stay up to date. In other words, if you're looking at the CareerWise newsletter, you wouldn't just say that provides a lot of good information. What you need to do is actually look at the newsletter and identify, in this case, a specific article or perhaps a tool that the issue offers that you are looking at. So you need to identify something very, very specific. It would not be enough to just say, this has got a lot of good articles and good information for staying up to date. What you want to say is, yes, it has a lot of good articles. Here's a really useful one that I read on the topic of AI or, some other topic. So you want to ensure that you're being very, very specific in identifying a specific feature, page, or tool on each of these sites that would be useful to keep you up to date as a practitioner. Then you're also going to explain fully in your own words what information these specific features would provide to you. So if you find a good article on the CareerWise in the CareerWise newsletter, what information did that article provide to you? And how would that be useful to you working in your work as a career development practitioner? How would that information be useful to you? In providing your explanation about how this information would be useful and what it contains, please do not copy any wording from the websites that you're referencing. So this is not a place to copy the whole article and drop it in to your assignment. You're just going to give me a very, very short snapshot or synopsis of an item that is on the 2 resources that you pick. So please don't copy any wording. You can certainly include a phrase or two, provided that you put it in quotation marks and it's clearly indicated you've quoted from the website. One other point about this that's important is that you must pick 2 different websites or resources from this list. In other words, you can't just pick, let's say, Careering Magazine and find 2 items from that magazine. So you want to pick 2 different resources from this list and then give me a specific item from each one. So once you've done that part, next you're going to do some research and find 2 additional resources that would be useful in helping you to stay up to date. I encourage you to pick resources that are regularly updated. A resource that's only updated every couple of years or even once a year is not really useful in keeping you current. So you really want to look for resources that are being updated pretty regularly, quarterly, perhaps even monthly, perhaps even weekly. That's how you stay up to date, not looking at something maybe once a year. The resources that you identify in this section also should not be resources that have been provided to you in this course or any other course that you've taken in the program. So unlike above where I actually gave you a choice of 2 out of a list of 4, the 2 that you're going to pick in this section must be resources that you find after you do some of your own research. Now, if you're not sure if a resource has already been provided in a course, maybe you find something and think, gee, that looks a little familiar. I wonder if we've seen this before. You can feel free to just run it by me, send me a quick link to the email, and I'll check it, or a link to the website by email, and I will check that out and just let you know. So if you have any doubts, don't hesitate to check in with me about that. Also, at least one of the 2 resources in this section must be a Canadian-based resource. It is really important, and I've emphasized this previously, to provide Canadian-based resources to clients as much as possible. There can sometimes be very significant differences in even occupational descriptions between Canada and the United States. So very, very important that you pick at least one Canadian resource in this section to keep you up to date. And also, please don't select resources that require a fee to access the information. So subscription costs, I need to be able to look at the resource and I need to be able to do that without actually paying for it. So please make sure that they're all free. And just another point and a tip that I want to emphasize for you in doing this part of the assignment is to note that websites that provide job postings or online career quizzes and resume tools would not be appropriate resources to use for this part of the assignment. I sometimes will have students submit a website like Indeed, and they'll say that, I'll look at job postings on Indeed on a regular basis. That does not really keep you up to date on trends unless you have the capacity to look at every single job posting and in your mind kind of crunch the data and notice the trends that are different from one month to the next. That just looking at job postings really is not going to keep you up to date. It could provide good information, but it's just not going to do enough to keep you up to date. In addition, a website that has a lot of assessment tools, yes, that would be very useful for clients, but again, it's not providing you with updated information. It's not giving you an analysis of a new trend in the field or some other new approach, something to do with AI, for example. So those types of websites would not work. And anything to do with resume tools, unless it's an article on, for example, how resume evaluations have changed, how employers are looking at resumes differently, something like that would be up to date. But a website that just provides a good resume check tool would not be an appropriate resource and wouldn't really help you stay up to date. So just ensure that any of the resources you select for this section are regularly updated with new information about trends in the labor market. Then, just as you did above for the resources that I provided to you, where you selected 2, here as well, you're going to identify a specific feature that would be useful in helping you to stay up to date. So again, Don't just say that, this website provides lots of good information. Identify a specific page, feature, or tool on the site that would be useful to career development practitioners and that you would look at when visiting the resource for updated information. If you would join a specific group or association for career development practitioners, then identify clearly what special features of the group or the association you would access. What sorts of things would you be accessing in this group that would help you to stay up to date? And again, give an example of information that is specific, that is provided by the specific feature or the section that relates directly to staying up to date. As an example, what's a fact, statistic, trend, or other information that you read about in the features you identify that gives you updated information? So again, you need to be very, very specific, giving me clear examples of information you provided. And then in the next point, explain fully in your own words what information these features would provide and how it would be useful to you as a CDP. And again, please do not copy any wording from the websites. Again, just as with the initial 2 that you did where you were using the resources I provided, here as well you must pick 2 different websites and resources. So you would not be selecting one website and identifying 2 features from the same website. So pick 2 websites and 1 feature per website. So that section, all of that really also adds up to 4 marks for 3, 4, and 5. Pretty much emphasized this point already, that you need to ensure that you're focusing on features that give regular updates. And, I've already mentioned the idea that assessment tools, occupational descriptions, or job postings, those might be useful in your work with clients, but again, they would not really give you updated information. So look for features that, for example, provide a regular newsletter or post articles and white papers on recent developments in the labor market. And look for features and resources that issue regular updates. So one of the reasons why occupational descriptions would not be sufficient to use for the assignment is that they tend to be fixed. They may be updated every 3 to 5 years, but this is not regular enough to be useful in keeping you up to date. One thing I want to mention as part of this is that if you select a conference as one of your resources, then you need to pick a conference that is currently scheduled, so the dates are already established, and that has a published roster of speakers, or that provides access to sessions previously held. So it wouldn't be enough to just say, I would go to a conference put on by this group and then leave it there, right? You need to be able to actually look at what are they offering in their conferences and then identifying how this would help you stay up to date. So if it's a conference that is normally held, but they don't every year, let's say, but they don't yet have their roster of speakers out, but they do have access to last year's speakers, then you could go and have a look at that schedule and the list of speakers and identify a couple of sessions that might be 1 or more sessions that might be of interest to you. So you must provide an example of at least one specific topic or speaker you would choose to attend from the current or previous year's schedule, and then you're going to respond to the points outlined that I've outlined above. In providing your description of the topic or speaker, again, don't copy any wording from the conference website. Just put it in your own words, including a phrase or 2 is okay, but you need to, again, put it in quotation marks. And then lastly, you're going to write a couple of paragraphs, approximately 200 words, outlining your plan for using the resources from number 2 and 3 above to stay up to date. Ensure that you do include all 4 of the resources that you reviewed in sections 2 and 3 above in your discussion in this section. Ensure in this section that you include all 4 of the resources that you reviewed, because students sometimes will overlook it. They'll sometimes maybe do the first 2 and they'll forget to say something about the second 2. So make sure that you've really covered all 4 resources in your analysis. And this is a really short analysis, only 200 words. And what you really need to focus on in the analysis is to be focused on you as a practitioner on staying up to date, not on resources that would help clients find jobs. So again, this assignment is all about you and keeping yourself up to date. In your plan, state specifically how you will access the information on these resources. So, for example, you need to visit the website or you need to register to receive the updates, when you would access or receive the information from the resources, what you would do with the information, and why it would be useful in helping you to stay up to date. So please address those questions in this paragraph that you're going to write. And again, only about 200 words. Your paper should be no less than 2 pages and no more than 3 pages double-spaced with size 12 font and 1-inch margins. So you can see this is meant to be a very, very short assignment, and really, you'd be writing approximately a half a page per resource, roughly. And if you did that, that would add up to 2 pages, or if you wrote a little bit more than half a page for each one, that would add up to 3 pages, double-spaced with size 12 font and 1-inch margins. The 2 to 3 page limit does not include a cover page. You do need to include a bibliography, but that also does not count as part of the page count. 0.5 of a mark, a half a mark, will be deducted for each page over or under the page limit. So please don't make any extra work for yourself. Just focus on writing 2 to 3 pages. And so again, since you're reviewing 4 resources, minimum half page per resource. And then up to 3 marks would be deducted for spelling and grammatical errors, a half of a mark for each error. I've just corrected that. I realized that I made an adjustment in the marking, and I had originally deducted up to 3 marks for spelling and grammatical errors, but the assignment has been revised so that it will just be 1.5 marks for spelling and grammar and 0.5 of a mark for each page over and under the limit. So that would add up in total to 3 marks in this section. And as usual, just submit your assignment as a Word document to me by email, and make sure you put your name in the title of the document. Now let me just scroll down here and show you the actual rubric. And again, this is a pretty short assignment. It takes a little bit of time to explain it, but it's really not a huge assignment. So in section 1, where you're going to select the 2 resources from the list I provided, if you select 2 resources and 1 specific feature from each site is identified, you get 2 marks. If you give clear and thorough explanation of the information that you would get from each feature and how it would be useful in your practice as a CDP, you would get 2 marks for that, for 4 marks total. Section 2, you are where you're picking 2 additional different resources that I've not already provided, that you've identified 2 resources, 2 different ones. At least one is Canadian-based, and you've identified a specific feature from each one. So that'd be worth 2 marks. And then a clear, thorough explanation is given of information that would be obtained from each feature and how it would be useful in your practice as a CDP. So that would be worth 2 marks. So that whole section is worth 4 marks total. And then the last section, where you are outlining your plan in approximately 200 words for using the identified resources to stay up to date, includes your responses to these 4 questions. And that's worth 4 marks in total. So again, really not a huge assignment. If there's 200 words in total in this section, you might divide it into 4. There might be roughly 50 words for each thing, but again, I'm not going to count them that closely. So just provide a paragraph or 2 in responding to these points. And then, as I've indicated, you get 3 additional marks for good spelling and grammar or deductions, and 0.5 of a mark deducted. Sorry, there's a little mistake there too, for each page over and under the 2 to 3 page limit, to a maximum of 1.5 marks. The tips section is pretty much the same as what you have always seen in other courses, in other assignments, but just a couple of things I want to highlight. Note that the 3 sections you're responding to in this assignment are worth the same number of marks, so the space should be divided fairly evenly between the 3 questions. Respond to each question fully and separately. It's helpful if you divide your paper into sections that are numbered and you clearly indicate which question you're responding to. You don't necessarily have to reproduce each question, but do number the sections and be specific and concrete in answering the questions. Again, provide examples of specific features that you would access. So I think all the rest of that is pretty standard, what you have seen before, and that gives you an idea of what you're going to be doing for this assignment. If you have any questions at all, let me know, and thank you very much for watching.